Fuel subsidy. President Tinubu sued over failure to publish 400 billion naira spending. Hello everyone, welcome to newsspottv. Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project Serap has filed a lawsuit against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over the failure to publish spending details of about 400 billion naira so far saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirits PMS, popularly called petrol. The suit followed reports that the federal government has saved 400 billion naira within the four weeks following implementation of the removal of subsidy on petrol policy. In the suit number FHC/L/CS/1514/2023, filed last week at the Federal High Court in Lagos, Serap is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Tinubu to publish details of spending of about 400 billion naira saved as a result of the subsidy removal on petrol on the 29th of May 2023. Serap is also seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Tinubu to provide details of the plans on how the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol, including specific projects on which the funds will be spent. Serap is also seeking an order of mandamus to compel President Tinubu to provide details of the mechanisms that have been put in place to ensure that the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol are not diverted into private pockets. In the suit, Serap is arguing that Nigerians have the right to know how the savings are spent. Disclosing the spending details of the savings would reduce the risk of corruption in the spending of the funds. Serap is arguing that the Tinubu government has a legal obligation to ensure that the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol are spent solely for the benefit of the 137 million poor Nigerians who are bearing the brunt of the removal. Serap is also arguing that opacity in the spending of the savings from subsidy removal would have negative impact on the fundamental interests of the citizens and the public interest. According to Serap, the savings from subsidy removal may be embezzled, misappropriated, or diverted into private pockets. The suit, filed on behalf of Serap by its lawyers Kolaole Oluwadare, Ms. Adelanke Aremo, and Ms. Valentina Adegoke, read in part, transparency would increase public interest and confidence that these savings will be used to benefit Nigerians. The Nigerian Constitution 1999, as amended, Freedom of Information Act, and the country's anti-corruption and human rights obligations rest on the principle that citizens should have access to information regarding their government's activities. Prevention of corruption in the spending of savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol and preventing and addressing the challenges caused by the removal are serious and legitimate public interest. The Tinubu government has a legal obligation to protect individuals against the threat posed to human rights by the removal of subsidy on petrol and to effectively address the aftermath of subsidy removal. Unless the government is compelled and directed to publish the spending details of the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol, the removal will continue to undermine the rights of Nigerians and increase their vulnerability to poverty. The implementation of the National Society Social Safety Net Program (NSSP) and spending on the program have been mostly shrouded in secrecy. Publishing the details of the spending of the 400 billion naira and other savings from the removal of subsidy will also ensure that persons with public responsibilities are answerable to the people for the performance of their duties. Transparency and accountability in the spending details of the 400 billion naira saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol and on the spending of subsequent savings from the removal would mean that the savings can help poor Nigerians to overcome the effect of such removal. It would also help to avoid a morally repugnant result of double jeopardy on poor and socially and economically vulnerable Nigerians. The lack of transparency and accountability in the spending of savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol and the resulting human cost would directly threaten fundamental human rights that the government has an obligation to protect. The Tinubu government has the legal obligation to address the effect of subsidy removal on the human rights of 137 million poor Nigerians and to prevent and address some of the direct consequences that the removal may reap on human rights, especially given the disposition and the impact on these Nigerians. The removal of subsidy on petrol continues to negatively and disproportionately affect poor Nigerians, undermining their right to adequate standard of living. Many years of allegations of corruption and mismanagement in the spending of public funds and entrenched impunity of perpetrators have undermined public trust and confidence in government at all levels. The Freedom of Information Act, Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution, Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights guarantee to everyone the right to information, including the details of how the 400 billion naira and other savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol will be spent. By the combined reading of the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, the Freedom of Information Act, and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, there are transparency obligations imposed on the government to widely publish the details of how the 400 billion and other savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol are spent. So this is what is happening now, as Serap has sued the president to give an account of the 400 billion naira that has been saved from the removal of subsidy. Democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and accountability should be the hallmark of a transparent, genuine, and honest government. So, and there are bodies like the Serap who is responsible to do this so that everybody will be kept in check. But would it just be the Serap just making noise, or they're going to be able to see this through? How successful will this lawsuit be in the court of law? And how would the judiciary, who have been in the zoom light of a lot of Nigerians and even the world at this moment of the country's fragile democracy? We would like to have your comments. Please drop it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. To our new subscribers, thank you so much for joining. And to existing subscribers, thank you for always stopping by. We'll see you in the next video. May God bless Nigeria. Have a lovely day, and bye for now.